highlight some things that our school improvement team has been working on this year. And in front of you is our school improvement goals and that sort of thing. I'll go through it. This is year 2 of kind of redoing how we do school improvement, where in the past, just to remind you, we had just a group of teachers that mostly volunteered to be on the school improvement team. They would kind of work on random goals or things like that, and then just kind of disseminate that information to the staff. We revamped that 2 years ago to where everybody on the staff chose one particular team to be on, and then was a part of the process of setting goals and working toward those goals. And the idea behind that was to incorporate everyone and invest everyone in the school goals, and everyone to feel like they had a part in that decision making and the things we were doing within there. As I go through this, you'll see a couple of the teams that really for this year was kind of setting up for a bigger kind of jump into things next year, exploring some different opportunities or things like that. And so I'll go into that. We did learn a lot this year, moving into next year, and I feel really good about where the school improvement team will go and kind of creating some more robust goals to really reinforce our 2 main goals, which you see above, is to improve our ACT test scores and then our graduation rate. So those are the 2 main goals that our schools focused on. And then within our school improvement teams, they set sub-goals that as we work to achieve those, the idea behind that would be that they would improve those 2 main goals. So I'll start with PBIS. So our positive behavior intervention support team, as you can see on there, the main goal is to decrease discipline behavior referrals, suspensions, and expulsions by teaching, modeling, recognizing appropriate behavior. Those related to our strategic plan, strategy 2, we will incorporate social emotional learning into regular operations of the school, and also strategy 5, developing and implementing district-wide systems to enhance student learning. So at BHS, everything centers around 4 core words that define the characteristics we want our students to leave Beatrice High School truly embodying. Those 4 are being a learner, being responsible, being respectful, and having integrity. Do I need to review where those came from, or do you remember that part? Okay. Sometimes everything's blurred, what we've talked about before or not. Our PBIS group continued, the student group has continued to meet quarterly. Highlights that have emerged from that student group were the creation of a mental health awareness week that happened before finals. They designed lessons and different activities to happen in Mentor each day leading up to the week of finals. Students seemed to enjoy that. They centered around healthy brain habits, relaxing, relieving stress, those sort of things. Also, there was a lot of student driving behind the recognition card and the kind of system that we're working on putting in place that's attached to the back of what I've given you there. As you can see, it's the You've Been Caught card. Each week for the remainder of the school year, we are having our teachers focus on, so this week has been being a learner, identifying students that are showing those positive behaviors, rewarding them. They turn them into the office, and then different prizes that have been thought of by that student group are then awarded to them. All common areas have expectations posted that we're working on with the adults for them to be referred to, so students are being reinforced with the positive behaviors we want to see as opposed to just identifying the negative behaviors. They're all centered around those 4 core words. This year large banners were hung in the commons. We're really working on instilling those words consistently throughout the building, so that consistent idea of what it looks like to be a learner, what it looks like to be responsible, respectful, and have integrity are reinforced. Tomorrow, video screens, all the daily announcements, there's continually running messages that involve what it's like to be a learner, in the classroom, what it looks like to be a learner in the comments, and it's just those reinforcing statements that they're seeing over and over again. We're also, part of tomorrow's professional development is gonna focus on the creation of lessons to be taught in mentor period, to reinforce once again those positive expectations that we wanna see. Behavior data indicates that this sub-goal is going to be met. For the 2022-23 school year, we had approximately 570 referrals, resulting in 186 out-of-school suspensions and 143 in-school. This year, we're currently sitting at 438, resulting in 156 days of out-of-school and 60 days of in-school. I don't anticipate 100 plus referrals happening between now and the end of the school year. Whether or not that's directly related to the implementation of this or not would be hard to exactly decipher, but it's good to see positive data in relation to student behavior and referrals, and also a reduction in out-of-school suspensions and in-school suspensions. Also, an interesting trend I noticed in even just this year's data, in first semester we had 279 behavior incidents, second semester we have 158. So we've seen a reduction in behavior as the year has gone on, which is a positive trend to see. So that kind of summarizes where we're at with PBIS. Questions or anything involved in that? Alright, so then our second group, our school safety and culture, what they did is they took a look at our high reliability schools level 1 surveys. They identified that they want to create a safe, supportive, collaborative culture. One goal they determined was build engagement, spirit, and culture by figuring out how we can do free student passes for the student body to all the activities. They've been working with area businesses and are right now on track to be able to provide that for next year. Every student will receive an activity pass. What we were working toward is that it does generate revenue for our activities department, and so we had to figure out a way to fill that hole of lost revenue for the department. We've secured enough funds, or we're really close. It's been cool, the students have been involved with that, like the penny wars that happened last week, that money will go toward these activity passes and some of the things, so they've actually been working toward that as well, as area businesses or donors have donated money. So that was the first part of that. The second part was student voice in terms of what we are recognizing and how we're recognizing things within our school. A group of 15 students that were made up of freshmen and sophomores and juniors met with this team and discussed what they'd like to see done, basically to answer the question, how do we make our school better? Areas that we can improve in. What they did is then they generated a list of things. You can read them all or spare you. And then also ideas of how to improve what they're saying. So some examples were work on getting more students at school to activities and games. So things that we identified as this would build our culture, our students actually also identified that, which I think is a good sign. That we're working toward the right things as adults. Different incentives to participate, advertising a wide variety of activities. They really did generate a great list. Then what they're currently working on is this group is taking that list and then putting it into action. So here toward the end of the year, class competitions have returned to Beatrice High School. Similar to what the middle school is doing, except instead of having houses, we do it by class. We've really started jump-starting that and have started planning for next year for that to run through the entire year to really build that culture and that excitement for investment in what we're doing. For the month of April, they've been competing against each other. April 2nd through 5th, there was a food drive. We had our penny wars the next week. Then we had a spirit day where points were awarded to the class that had the most. Kids that dressed up with Beatrice stuff. This current week, we're working on, points will be for the fewest tardies. So starting to incorporate some of those things that we're wanting to see from our students into getting those points and motivating them. And then the last, week will be the class with the fewest, Fs on the final F list, will receive their points. So as you can see, what we'll work toward and kind of our building for into next year is to create a system of motivation and excitement about the things that we're doing at the high school. Any questions about that, team?
Okay, I'm going back
Yes.
to the PBIS.
Okay.
You talked about first semester you had 297 referrals versus 158 in the second semester.
Correct.
Is that number of incidents or number of students?
Number of incidents.
Okay, so it's not like 297 of our
No.
kids were referring. You
No.
could have had somebody refer 10 times.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
and I will tell you that it is typical, you're gonna have your top 1%, that's gonna be generating quite a bit. Top 3% will kinda have the next bulk, and then the majority of students are gonna have 1 to 0.
Okay. The other question I have, when you're talking about, free student entrance to BHS activities, are you talking only the high school or are you talking school wide?
The high school students.
Okay.
Yeah, will each receive a student activity pass.
Okay.
So similar to what they have to purchase this year, the student passes, they'll receive, everyone will receive one for free.
I was just thinking about those siblings who were in middle school and elementary, what happens to them? So, and I know that's not your concern necessarily, your
Sure.
concern is the high school, but
Mhm.
it was just something I wondered about.
Yeah, and I think, as we continue to work on implementing these things and building these goals, those are big questions that we can look at. Okay, now we have a higher number of our high school students attending things and wanting to be a part of things. How do we bring the rest of the community in? It's a great question.
Of course, the reverse could also be true if they start participating at a younger level, and they might continue. I would say I've had some concerns about, well, in my case, my granddaughter's on dance team. For her family, for her mother to bring 5 other kids to come watch her is expensive, you
Sure.
know. I mean, it's good to start somewhere.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm against it, I was just curious how that works.
It's a good question.
I did money, I've done the money for baseball the last couple games, and we've got high school kids coming to baseball games that are still paying cash, where the next year, those same kids would get a free activity pass.
So have you put a cost to that? 'Cause
About $2,500.
Jason would
That-
know
yep,
that. I
yep,
would guess.
2,500.
So you could write a grant for that.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, I don't know what grants would do that, but that has to be, that $2,500 that we're generating, or this team is what Gus Brown, or Mr. Brown has told us the amount of revenue that comes in on activity cards is currently,
Okay,
so.
all right, thank you.
Good idea.
And then, like I kind of stated before, some of these goals are really building for next year. So when we're looking at the academic goal, where we're looking to increase the number of freshmen who are earning at least 60 credits, so that they're maintaining being with their cohort on graduation. This committee spent a lot of time studying the power of ICU, which is what the middle school is utilizing. They've determined that is something that we want to pursue. Through the course of the year, they researched that, have determined that. We brought what is his name? Danny, in to speak with our teachers. So that is something that we'll move forward with next year, implementing that with freshmen and sophomore in terms of the ICU program. So that's kind of where this particular group spent their time. They've also spent their time talking about different interventions that we want to put in place to assist with ICU. We'll be starting up Freedom Fridays, again, which was an intervention for students who are currently passing all their classes. Friday we run a little bit of a shorter schedule, and students who are passing all their classes will get out 35 minutes early or so. Whereas those who are not passing their classes will stay with teachers and work on whatever they need to work on to be passing classes. So kind of both a motivator, but also an intervention in terms of finding time for us to get kids with teachers to work on those grades. A little bit different this year, we're gonna run a couple this year just so we can look at some formats. This first time around, we're gonna have all the math teachers in one area of the commons and have all the different subjects so that when kids come and are working on things, they're all in one area working with a multitude of teachers. We're hoping that goes well. Right now, we're just gonna be doing that with our freshmen and our sophomores to really focus on them early, because we know statistically that if we have kids that are passing their classes and earning their credits as a freshman, they're more likely to graduate in 4 years.
What kind of numbers are you anticipating for that?
Based on the latest F list, it'll be pretty full.
Okay, so this is an intervention we used to use prior to COVID, and what we would see, Charles, is that when we announced, and we're gonna run one of these on May 3rd, when we announced that this particular day is gonna be a Freedom Friday or a early intervention, it was remarkable how many kids got their work turned in, so then they were passing their classes.
Motivation?
It's
Yes.
amazing, 30
Yes.
minutes of free time or whatever the kids perceive it as, tends to get things turned in and their grades go up. So, right now, we could tell you a number, but when this information breaks and we go back to school Monday, announce that next Friday is gonna be a Freedom Friday, the number of kids failing classes will decrease. We'll have more kids that'll wanna get out.
Okay. And for the ICU plan, do you expect to adapt that from middle school, or what do you foresee?
Well, I'm gonna brag, Mr. Hakey and Mr. Stengel and the middle school staff have done a tremendous job with that. And, you know, what this committee of teachers that we have on our school improvement team noticed was, and this is teacher driven, they noticed that our ninth graders, who last year were under Mr. Hakey and the middle school's tutelage, are coming to the high school this year, and they're the best class of turning things in. They're the most organized, more organized than what we've seen in the past. And so what they're doing in the middle school is having a direct impact on the transition to high school. And that's where this whole idea came, is if we're seeing that change with the kids that are coming to the high school, then maybe we need to look at what the program that they're utilizing and how it would benefit our high school. Our focus, as Mr. Boyd said, is gonna be primarily freshmen and sophomores, but when we had Danny Hill come in right after Christmas and present some staff development to our team, he suggested we utilize this for all of our students. Kind of the thinking was by our teachers were, by the time they're seniors, they ought to be able to be organized and turn things in and be pretty focused on their future, but he didn't recommend that we look at just a certain grade or early grades. He said, run the thing for your whole school. And so, I know Mr. Voigt's looking at that, maybe there's a conference this summer that he plans to attend and maybe take some teachers to, because quite honestly, kudos to Mr. Hakey in the middle school for getting it started. It's making a difference with them, I know. He spoke to you folks about that previously, but you also need to know that it's making a difference with our ninth graders coming in who are part of that program. So they're gonna get involved with it.
Good habits for college.
Yes.
They really are not.
Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, that's kind of where, I didn't read through all of the strategic plan stuff, you guys can read. But if you have questions or anything, I'll be happy to answer them. Or as you look through or think of things later, feel free to reach out and answer those questions.
This whole school improvement process, folks, just a reminder, this is our attempt to involve our staff more. These committees are staff-driven, they're subcommittees, and they're sub-team leaders that are teachers that are on our school improvement team. And it's one of the things we talked to Cogni about when they came and did our external visit, about the change that we've made with our school improvement process, where it used to be kind of driven by administration and a few teachers that worked on the goals, and then we reported out. We talk about these things all the time in our faculty meetings and monthly sub-team meetings. And personally, I think it's a better format now. Mr. Voigt may want to make some changes and some adjustments to it. But I guess I would want you as school board members to know that this is our attempt to give our teachers a voice in the decisions we're making and the improvement processes we're making at the high school. And they're you know, for the most part, they're doing a really good job, and I think it's indicative of us trying to give our teachers and our students what we call a voice, and giving them a chance to make decisions on the things that we do. So it's not always administrative-driven decisions.
Yeah, sounds great. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Suda is gonna talk about the cell phone committee.
I am. I've got two different things. I'm gonna give you a copy of the policy, but I made a cheat sheet, kind of a summary sheet that I think might be more valuable for you at the time that we have. I don't expect you just to read the policy and
It's the one I gave
So-
you.
the one that's going around is, you'll see it's called Personal Electronic Device Policy Action Summary Sheet. That's the one that I'm gonna spend most of my time with you on. So it's ironic, we had, at the high school, we started seeing articles in papers and on the internet, and the schools around us were starting to look at their cell phone policies. And then there was a kind of a request by the board to have us look at our policy. And so we'd already kind of planted the seed with our staff that this was something we probably needed to look at least look at and see what we were doing with cell phones. And so I guess on the summary sheet, is everybody looking at that? First, these are just statements that I want you to know that what we did. So first of all, I collected policy statements from the conference schools. I asked all of our schools in our conference, what is your cell phone policy? I asked some area schools, Wymore, Tri-County, Crete, different places, what their cell phone policy were, and some similar sized schools. We also contacted sales representatives from a company called Yonder Bag, which we kept hearing this is what Tri-County does. The kids go there, they put their phone in a bag, it's magnetically locked all day, and the kids don't have any access to their phones because of that bag that Tri-County utilizes. So we did that. I had several conversations with sales reps with that company. It was going to be a very expensive venture, and something that we've got something else brewed up we want to share with you tonight, but that's something that could be looked at in the future, I guess. But it was very expensive to do that for the size school we're at. We formed a committee of 6 teachers, 1 para-educator, all 3 of our administrators, and Officer Lauenstein, and we met 5 times to develop and revise our policy. We made copies of newspaper articles. This is my file. Newspaper articles, there's a packet we made for our teachers that were on the committee. We looked at internet articles, various policies, and provided those to the committee. We met with representatives from the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade student council and their sponsor for Student Voice. We presented to all Beatrice High School teaching staff at a faculty meeting here a week or so ago, reviewed and provided scenarios and policy application. And we've had a request to share with students and parents or guardians prior to the end of the school year, so we raise awareness of what this policy would be moving forward to next year, or what this revision of the policy is. I guess I want to stop for a second and tell you, we already had a policy, and we have a policy. It's not like we don't have something in place at the high school. It's in our handbook, and we follow it. But in the revision of this policy, we wanted to be, I think, more consistent. We wanted to look at the consequences students were receiving for the violation of having phones out during class, and just some other things. So in that next grouping of sentences there, these are some of the basics of our policy. That we're going to call it a PED, and that stands for personal electronic devices. As we started looking at this, folks, it's not just cell phones that are a distraction in class. It's smart watches that kids can actually text and receive texts and talk into and look up things on the internet on. It's earbuds that sometimes our kids listen to that are distracting. They're listening to music or whatever else it might be, or we've had I think we had a teacher find that a student had made themselves notes on a quiz that they were taking the night before and was listening to that while they were taking the quiz. So it's not just cell phones, it's going to be personal electronic devices. Those include phones, smart watches, iPods, headphones, they're on the policy. We're going to use this word and this phrase a lot, during class time. The personal electronic devices are placed in a hang bag or other storage container by the student, and the teacher must and will be directed to use this. So let's just keep going, and I'll give you a scenario here in a little bit. Cell phones will not be used by students unless directed by the teacher, the substitute, or any guest speakers that we'd have that come to the high school. Study halls and online classes are considered classes, and the policy is enforced during those course times. Students' smartwatches that are connected to their phone will be in violation of the policy. The students are not allowed to take their phone out of the classroom with them during class time. What we were hearing from teachers was, right now, kids will ask to use the restroom or go see the nurse, or even if they get called to the office, they're utilizing that time to go in the bathroom and sit on the toilet and look at their phones or text and catch up on the news or whatever they need to do while they're out of class. So,
Yeah.
so we're getting into all different areas here.
We didn't say which.
The first violation of the PED policy is that the phone would be, or the item would be confiscated. A student would give it to the teacher. It would be returned to the student at the end of the day, and they would lose that device for one full day. Teachers on the committee were really stressed this. They said, what if a student gets their, so I'm just going to keep using phone, but make sure you keep applying this to headphones, smartwatches, whatever, all the things that are listed. So they lose their phone at the end of the day, 7th period. They'd only lose it for that last period, and then they get it back after school. So teachers really were focused on, they need to lose it for one full day. So they'd lose it from 7th period that day till 8th period the next day. Okay. Second violation of this, if they're caught a second time with their phone out during class, it would be confiscated, would be returned to the parent or guardian of the student at the end of the first day, but then the student would lose their cell phone for 3 additional days. So they come to school and they're going to turn their cell phone in for 3 days after they've lost it for the first day. And the third violation is that cell phone's confiscated, returned to the parent or guardian at the end of the first day, but then they also lose their cell phone for 5 additional days. So keep going with me. Refusal to turn over we have some students that won't give it to the teacher. That happens now. So if they refuse to turn their cell phone over to the teacher when they're caught with it out, it becomes an administrative action. Those students are either sent to the office or we're called to the class to get to have the student come with us. And we work with the student. We try to get them to turn over their phone to us, even though they didn't with the teacher. If they won't, then we have a variety of things we do, including out-of-school suspension. Further violations, if it goes, what if there's a fourth and a fifth violation? We would continue to confiscate the item, and then Mr. Boyd, Mr. Kendall, and Mr. Brown would have to think up of maybe more appropriate consequences or more strict consequences for that repeat violator. And there's also statements about, and that's on this policy, the main policy you can read, we've also made sure we include an appropriate use statement, an assumed privacy statement, a search statement, and a release of liability statement. And I will review those briefly with you before we're done. So, the last part there is questions that have come up that we think will obviously come up either from you as school board members or from parents, or that students had when we met with the students for the student voice. So, our cell phones, smart watches, earbuds, headphones, iPods, iPads, are those allowed at Beatrice High School? They would continue to be allowed, but only during passing periods or at lunchtime.
What's passing period?
A 5-minute passing period
Oh, okay.
from like the bell rings, you have 5 minutes to get from course classroom A to your next class. So those two things are what we call non-instructional time. So they would continue to be allowed during that. We did not, and our committee and our teachers did not feel yet, until we give this a shot, that we were in a position to say no cell phones can be used all day at Beatrice High School. Okay? We think parents and guardians will ask, what if my child has their phone taken away or not able to have it in their possession for 3 or 5 days? Well, they can call the school like the old times, and they can talk to the secretaries, and they can ask for their child to come to the office and return a phone call, or we can go get the child from class and have them come down and use one of the phones to call their parent back, or we can take a message from the parent and get it to the child. And that's a commitment we're willing to make. It would be the same way of letting students know what's going on with their parents, but it wouldn't be that the kids would have their phones. Our committee felt like the loss of the cell phone or the loss of the electronic device was a much more direct and impactful consequence than issuing detention time. It's kind of a weird thing right now. Kids don't really care too much about detention. You give them an hour detention, that doesn't bother them. Either they don't plan to serve it, or them putting in that hour detention is not a big consequence for them.
Right now, do they get their cell phones in detention, or no? They cannot have their cell phones in detention?
So the committee and even the students, when we met with the representatives of the student body, felt that that was a better use of a consequence than detention time. Another question, we think cell phones not put in the storage device but seen earn an automatic violation status and consequences. So what we've already got a few teachers on the committee that have been putting this policy into place in their classrooms. So kids are smart, folks. They'll come to school with an old iPod that looks like an iPhone, and they'll put that in the bag, so it's seen like they've got their cell phone put in there, but they still have their cell phone in their pocket or in their book bag. And if they're caught with that, and we have had a student caught, that's an automatic violation. They're deceiving the teacher that they've turned their cell phone in, and they really haven't. And we think that'll continue to happen. Okay? Burner phones or iPods, well, here it is. Burner phones or iPods used as a decoy will be addressed. If the actual device is present, it will be a violation of the policy. Earbuds, headphones, and smartwatches are also being used by students, which are a distraction and included. And then we had a question from our staff, like who's gonna keep track of which kids have their phones taken away for what days, and that's gonna be a bookkeeping issue, and we've already developed a spreadsheet that'll be utilized, or some adjustments to it. And we've talked, Mr. Voigt and I have talked to our front office secretaries, and they're prepared to run that and utilize that. So we'll have a system in place as to who's tracking what days students are to be turning their cell phone in when they come in. Appropriate use statement simply says that students will be allowed to use their cell phones at lunch and in the hallways as long as they're using them in an appropriate manner. The assumed privacy, this says cell phones and other cannot be used to record or take images when they're allowed out of the classroom, in the restroom, in locker rooms, or other places where privacy may be expected. We use that may be expected as that's actually a legal term that Officer Lauenstein shared, that is something that someone could get legally in trouble for, of going into a restroom and taking a video of someone going to the bathroom. And unfortunately, we have had examples of male student at the urinal, a student comes up from behind them with their cell phone and takes a video. And then, of course, that gets put on Snapchat. So we've already put signs up on our restrooms that say no restrooms, or no cell phones or recording devices allowed in our restrooms. I don't want to talk much more about that, but it's happened in the women's restroom too. Someone will take a video of somebody sitting on the toilet over the top of the stall. So it's not just a guy thing. So we're going to address that. The search, that's been a statement we've utilized in the past. It just says if we have reason to believe that there's inappropriate pictures or videos or inappropriate material on a student's cell phone while they're at school, we have the right to search that phone. It could be confiscated, it could be involved with law enforcement. This has to do with some of the sexting and bullying and some of the different things that might happen. And then the last one is the release of liability. It states that the school is not responsible for the loss of a cell phone. We had some questions as to if we're going to make our teachers have the kids turn their cell phone in when they come in the room. There may be, I bought for our teachers a couple of years ago I guess you can use them to put your shoes in on the back of a closet door. It's like a big long thing with these clear little pockets. We bought those for our teachers, and when a kid comes into class, though, they're going to be asked to put their phone in that. Just pretend this what this is. Put that in there, okay? There was a feeling or a thought that if a teacher had a student put their phone in there and the phone went missing, that the teacher was liable for that. It's not. They're not. We're not liable for students bringing their cell phones or electronic devices to school. Okay? It's their responsibility, and that's where we have the ability to have them put those in a I mean, we can't be negligent and have those things in an area where they can't be observed and the teacher doesn't have lines of sight with, but we also aren't gonna, I guess, be worried that, well, they're not gonna be worried that a student putting their cell phone in we also have a teacher that uses a box with little slats in it, and the kids put their phone in that box. When they do that, this phone is still the student's, okay? So, then the last statement, I don't think we'll ever do this, but the school may dispose of personal electronic devices that are unclaimed at the end of each semester. We have a pile of old cell phones in high school that kids have either lost or people have come to our games and lost, and they never come looking for them. So at some point, we need to have something we do with those. So that's the summary of the policy. I guess I want to just, before I open it up to questions, I want to let you know that I think we did due diligence with the packet of material we gave our teachers. Gave them all these things. In the back of this packet, it had all the schools' policies. We met many times. We had good conversations. I want to compliment the committee of teachers. Probably one of the best committees I've ever had a chance to work with. They were focused. They came to our meetings well prepared. They shared information with the rest of the teachers throughout the time. We had Officer Lauenstein gave us some different perspectives on things also. And I think I'm just gonna tell you, I think we did a good job on this, developing something new. In essence, what's gonna happen when kids come in a classroom, they're not gonna have access to their phones. Phones are gonna either be put in a box that the teacher has, or they're gonna be put in one of those hang bags, and that's it. And their phones, their watches that can connect to that phone still cannot be utilized for that. We did not wanna say kids can't wear watches to school, but we do see a problem with the smart watches being connected to that phone through Bluetooth and being able to access their phone still by using their watch. A lot of our teachers have already told kids, take off your watches when we give tests. It's just part of what they're able to, I mean, I just keep mine to keep track of my steps and to tell what time it is. But the kids have these watches that they can talk to, they can text, they can receive phone calls, they can make phone calls. So the smart watches are becoming an issue also. And then we've got a lot of kids that walk around with earbuds in. And now, I do want you to know, there are some students that have IEPs. In those IEPs, it may say that during study time or in a time that listening to music will help them. We're obviously gonna honor that. We're not gonna not allow that when the students got that in an IEP type of legal document. Says they have the right to have those, but those are distractions too. Throwing a lot of information at you, what questions might you have?
Let's see, can you block the Bluetooth signals?
We can ask students, you can ask students to turn the Bluetooth thing off. As far as the question, then some of you may ask or have people ask you, there are things you can buy that blocks the whole signal in your whole school. Chief Lang, the person who does our safety audit, has told me do not do that. That is not a wise decision. If we ever would have something bad happen at Beatrice High, you want people to be able to access their phones and call out, and it's a safety thing that would be a positive thing in that aspect. So we're not utilizing any kind of block. Going back to those yonder bags, Tri-County does use those. Tri-County's a much smaller school. If we were going to look at that, I just put expensive, but I'll share it was gonna be almost $24,000 to buy a bag for every student at Beatrice High. And they still can, in talking with Tri-County, the kids can still go on Amazon and buy the magnet that they use to demagnetize the bag and still open their bag during the day. So it's not a foolproof thing. But for them, it works, and it's working.
Yeah. How enforceable is this policy? What kind of effort do you think it's gonna take, time? Because I agree with what's
Well-
going on here. It's just all the teachers buying in, just the amount of effort trying to avoid violations.
A lot of this policy is pretty similar to what we already have, but it's putting more, it's requiring every teacher to do the same thing. What happens now is some teachers in some classes will allow students to have their phones on their desk just like this, as long as it's turned over and they're not using it. Other teachers see that phone and they confiscate it immediately. So, in fairness to our students, sometimes they get a mixed message. Some teachers, well, that so-and-so teacher lets us use it. Well, that teacher's not gonna let you use it. They're following the policy. So we've made it clear to our teachers that everyone's gonna have to either use the hang bag, I call it, or some kind of a box, and Mr. Voigt's prepared to buy those for the teachers if they need them.
So it sounds
And
like
so
there's good buy-in.
there was when we went through with our staff. And when we went through with the students, the student council members, Charles, I'll be honest, they were just happy that they were able to have their phones at lunch. They had kept on hearing rumors and whatever they hear, that we were gonna not allow any phones all day long.
Was there any discussion about that, just not having PEDs during the day at all? Because to me, that seems like it would have cleared up a lot of these off issues that could come up.
I think the teachers just felt that was think the teachers felt that, how are we gonna patrol that?
Yeah.
I think they thought it was unpatrollable as far as, I mean,
Yeah, I guess it'd be
98% of our, I'd say
easy.
99% of our kids walk around with cell phones. So
Yeah, I know, but I guess what I'm getting at, if you don't allow them at all during the day, it kind of clears up anything.
No, I guess our teachers did not feel that was something they wanted to address, or we thought we wanted to address it in our policy.
Okay.
There's very few schools that, other than Grand Island, I think, is doing that. If you read this, what the other schools that we looked at are doing, they're doing similar things during the classroom time, but they're still allowing phones during passing period and during lunchtime.
So if we implement this, then treat it like a test time to see, does it work? You keep a spreadsheet of violations, kind of try to keep track of what problems exist with the possibility of revising it if need be.
I think that's kind of the way we've left it is, this is what we're gonna try next. It's gonna be more uniform. It's gonna be, every teacher is gonna have to participate in the basics of it. And the administration moving forward will have to address if it's not working. Maybe the next step would be what Mr. Petrosky would like us to do.
And this would start next fall with a lot of advance notice.
Well, the request was, when this was, as we were developing, the committee didn't know who the next principal was gonna be after I announced my resignation, so they wanna know if I would run it before I was done and deal with the fallout of it and deal with all the issues that might come. I said, sure, I don't have a problem doing that. But now that they know Mr. Voigt's the next principal, I think he's gonna have to decide how he wants to roll it out. We think probably one of the least minimum things we should do is we do class sessions where we pull all the freshmen to the have alone and review it with each of those classes. We're gonna leave the seniors out of it, they're gone. I mean, they're graduating. So freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, probably before the year's over, would have some kind of introduction to what this policy is. And then also their parents and guardians would need a letter sent home or some awareness, so that they're gonna come back in the fall and there's like, when did this
Surprise,
happen?
Yeah.
I think in short answer to your question, Charles, it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gotta happen. This is the first step of probably will be multiple conversations around this topic. And as I think tonight's kind of an introductory thing, as you guys think about it, if you have more questions, then it becomes, tonight's the first step in communicating it. And then, but it's gonna have to be start of the year, throughout summer, reminders, start of the year reminders. And as Mr. Suter said, talking with each group of students as they come in and making it very clear what the expectation is. And that's part of the reason we have to involve as well, is to make it very clear what everybody's accountability level is here.
So,
I think the staff I'm gonna go back to your question. I think the staff on the committee were very pleased that we were gonna come up with something where students wouldn't have their phones in their possession during class time. If you look at these middle statements, everything is during class time, during class time, during class time. They felt that would be the better place to start than to try to ban cell phones from our building.
It's just purely my opinion, but to me, it just seems like it'd be an easy transition because the middle school doesn't allow them. So you go from 8th grade and freshman year, you're used to not having them at all during the day. So you go from 8th grade to freshman year, now all of a sudden, you gotta use them in the hallway, you gotta use them online. To me, it just seems like it'd be a very simple transition.
I mean, yes, the middle school has the kids put them in their backpacks and makes them put their backpacks in their lockers. They still have violations of their cell phone, the kids don't always follow that. I talked to Mr. Hakey about that, they still get kids with their cell phones in their pockets. So it's not a foolproof system either, but
Okay,
I guess I'm just gonna say that, I think another thing is we've got some teachers in our school that say our job is to educate kids on the appropriate use of a cell phone. They're not going away. You're gonna use them in your adult life, So let's start working with our kids on, if you're gonna have a cell phone, then this is the appropriate way to use your cell phone during times that they're not to be used. And I got some staff that, these policies are all over the place. You know, I looked at Wahoo, it says no cell phones, but then if you read, it says each teacher will set their own policy.
Yeah.
So I think this gives us a little more than that. And I'll be honest, we've got some teachers that they're gonna, I mean, Mr. Voigt's gonna have to make sure they follow it, but I got some teachers out there that would say, just let me deal with it. I think our job is to educate the kids on when's the appropriate time to use a cell phone and when it's not.
So it depends on
So,
the principal. is
there's a lot of
looking-
different views on it. This gets us at least consistent, and I think a teacher that doesn't follow it's gonna have to be addressed.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I was asking about buy-in and how it's enforced with the students and the teachers.
The other thing I would say to you folks, and I'm not saying this, some of the worst violators of our cell phone policy are our parents. They're constantly
Yes.
calling and texting their kids during the day,
I know.
so.
Okay, so I
That first bullet there about what's the questions,
You have to raise your hand.
Yeah, both of them, I've got two questions.
the first bullet there about what are the parents gonna say when their kid has their phone taken away because they violated it? You call the office, 223-1515, talk to the secretary or administrator, and your child will get the message. But I'm telling you, when we get phones taken away from kids, when we talk to the kids about it, they don't know what to do, because they're wanting to follow the policy, but they got mom or dad texting them, and they feel like they need to respond to that too. So,
So my question is, when you confiscate a PED, it says return to parent, guardian at the end of the day, is that physically returned to them?
the parent or guardian will be contacted, your child has violated our cell phone policy, come out and after school and pick up the cell phone.
Okay,
That's an interesting thing too. I mean, some parents will say, I'll be right there. Some parents say, you can leave it there for days.
or they don't get off work until
Some
5.
parents will be upset with the child for breaking the policy.
Mhm.
Some parents are mad at me for having a policy. I mean, it's just you're gonna get a mixed bag, but we at least want the parent, on the second and third and continual offenses, the parent will pick up the phone after the first full day.
Okay, my second.
We're not
question-
taking we want parents to know that when a kid turns in their phone, they're gonna have their phone at home that night.
Right,
But either the kid's gonna get it the first day, that's first time, okay, you made a mistake, here it is. Second, third times, it's gonna be the parent or guardian that has to come get it.
Every day, if they're, I mean, you said like if they lose
Just the
their phone
first,
for
just
3
the
days.
first day, just the first day. So,
Yeah, but okay, so if they lose their phone, if it's a multiple violation issue, they lose their phone for 3 days, the parent's gonna have to come out and pick that phone up every day?
no, just the first day. The parent would come get the day that they violate the policy for the second or third time, the parent comes get it. We didn't think it was fair to have parents have to get off work or leave work by 4:30 to come out at 3 to 5 days every day to get their child's phone. So the kid will get it back after the parent gets it the first time.
okay, my next question is, says, you know, they will lose it for 3 days. So the kid says, well, if I'm gonna lose my phone for 3 days, I'm not coming 2 days. So if they lose it the first day, then if they miss 2 days, those 2 days don't count toward the 3 day. Is that correct?
The spreadsheet would just be updated.
Yep.
You know, from everything that I've read and researched, and I did some researching some months ago, that this is, you're on the right path. I agree, this is good. This is needed.
It was a good teacher committee. It was a good group of students that got a chance to see it. And it's my pleasure leading that group, so, thank you.
Yeah, allowance for exceptions, if there's special cases, who's going to figure out what exceptions, okay?
I mean, I think administration always does that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always, in every rule you have, there's always some scenario that you have to think about, or
Yeah.
how does it apply to each student?
Whether it's IEP, medical, what, yeah.
We have, yeah, that's a good point. We have some students that track their blood sugars on their phone.
Yeah.
They're, that kid is still gonna be asked to not have your phone out during class, but they may be able to, I mean, if they've checked their blood sugars, they've checked their blood sugars. We're not gonna take that away.
Yeah.
So there'll be that kind of scenario that will play out.
So some of this is how mean the principal can act, and you might have to,
I think it's more,
you might have
yeah,
later
I think it's just,
ask.
I think it's just a matter of looking at the scenario.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have to be, we're gonna be supportive of them though, because there will be issues and parents will be, there are some parents who want to be in contact. I would like to say though, from a person that subbed, it will be a great relief. Because I guarantee you, I never subbed in a class where they were not allowed to use cell phones. According to the student, you know. There was did they, of course, you know, and they.
I think the last thing I want to leave you with is when we worked through this, we also wanted to give a teacher the ability to control their classroom. And we're taking cell phones away for the benefit of the student. But we also felt it was important that in a math classroom or in a class, I mean, these phones these kids we all have, are little computers. And there are times where students are given a chance to look up something by the teacher, or given a chance to utilize their phone, or do something with their phone that we want the teacher to, and that's why if you read that, it says, given permission by the teacher. The teacher still has the ability to say to the student, you can use that, or, yeah, so.
At that point in time, it's an instructional tool, you know, not
Yeah,
a social.
Online curricula, resources.
So
I
is
guess
this-
I would just ask the board to give it a chance. We've done, I think, our due diligence, we've followed a good procedure, we got staff involved, we got students involved, we've got some teachers that are actually already implementing this in their classrooms.
Successfully.
Christina Jerez I should have invited her, she could have sat here tonight, said she's running this in her room and it's made a difference already. And kids are able to follow it, it's not
Yes.
something we've set up that kids can't do.
So is this the policy that's gonna come before the board then?
That's the way it's written up now with Jason and
This
I,
is the current policy.
that's the one we've come up with.
It's
It's
in
not
the
It's
handbook.
in the
policy, yeah.
handbook. Are
It's
we
in the
going to-
handbook.
is
It's
it
not
going to
board
become-
policy.
It's not board policy right now.
Okay.
It can become board policy.
It's in the handbook, and then you approve the handbook,
Right.
which becomes,
Indirect.
that's just the way it's been written up now. I can meet with Jason to see how, if you would like it written up differently, or,
Well,
but,
I have to
but
read it.
that's what we've gone over with the kids, and that's what we've gone over with our teachers. That's what our committee came up with.
Okay.
I think it's important that, like I said, tonight's a starting point of the conversation. Been very thorough, it's important that we talk about it again, probably at the May meeting as a discussion item. And then decide from there how we want to implement, whether it be handbook or board policy. It gives it a little more teeth if it's board policy.
So if some teachers are starting to implement it now, it would be nice to hear back what success level.
I mean, if you would like that in May, I can line up some teachers to come and speak to you about it. I can line up some students that could come and speak to you about it. But I was just asked to come talk to you tonight about it, so.
I think that's a great idea.
Much appreciated.
I was in Ms. Jerez's class just the other day, and she's got a box, and it's got numbers, and there's a list, all the kids have their names and what their number is, and it was great. They can see their phone, that's always been a thing. With this generation especially, it's an attachment piece, so there it is, it's right there. But those phones were in that slot, and those kids were there learning, and it was for that entire time period. When they left and went to the bathroom, that phone stayed there. And she said it's been very successful. And so that was reassuring to me as we were coming to talk to you and things like, I saw it in action, and it was successful.
Is the expectation that the phones stay in the bag, the box, whatever? Or can the teacher at the end of the period say, oh, well, we're all done, you can go get your phone for 5 minutes?
Well, back in the old day, if we had a good day in class, I would say, you can talk to your neighbor, and you could even line up at the door for the last couple minutes. I think we want to, that's what I was kind of getting, teachers would still have the ability to say, we've had a great class, you've been engaged, you've worked hard, I'm gonna let you come up here and get your phone for the last couple minutes and see what's shaking. Or a teacher could say, no, we're going to work till the bell. But it gets every teacher doing the same thing, which I think is important, because that's not happening now.
So if and when we're contacted by parents or students, we've got policy in front of us and we can just direct it to you.
Yes, sir.
That's our duty, yes,
Thank you very much. I think we better move on so we get on before it gets back over. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. ESSER's grant fund, Mr. Alexander.
So just very quickly, wanting to keep you in the loop, as you know, in 2020, when the ESSER funds started to come out, first it was CARES Act, now it's ESSER funds, we've talked extensively about the ESSER funds, and now we're on round 3. So as we start preparing for the new building, we can purchase things for the new building with the ESSER funds, as long as we can adapt it back to a couple different things. One of those being spreading kids out or cleaning. So our plan for part of the ESSER funds that you'll see coming up in May for your approval will be to purchase 4 scrubbers for the new building. So we're looking at 2 to 3 of those, and vacuum cleaners. And just the reason of bringing this up is the 4 scrubbers are over the $5,000 policy, or over that amount, so they will have to be approved by you. But we're currently right now getting, taking a look at those anywhere from $6,500 to $8,000 is what we're looking at per 4 scrubber. Vacuum cleaners fortunately are not that expensive, but they are expensive. They wouldn't have to come to you, but just wanted you to be aware of it. Those purchases that will be coming your way. How that works, ESSER's funds, we order the equipment, and then it comes, we take the invoice, we take the ESSER's funds documentation, we attach that, send it into the Department of Education, and we get reimbursed for it. So it's an expense reimbursement process. Okay?
So you get a clean pass from me,
All right,
clean.
clean pass.
We're gonna move right on to classified and administrative salaries.
We are. And I'm passing around some documents for you. I just didn't want these to get confused before the meeting, so hopefully that's enough. What you're getting right now, and you've seen this before as we transitioned into, or as last year as we talked about classified staff salaries and so forth, we made some big changes to this document a year ago, and this is what the result was, okay? So I'm just giving that to you right now, so the next part, you can make comparisons to what we're looking at for next year and what our proposal is, okay? So here comes the second document, which is, actually, you'll notice at the top, it says draft on it, and that's because until this is approved by you, it's a draft document. And I'm just gonna hit the highlights of this, folks, but you can take this home and review it and look at it. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So the first one is our current classified staff pay schedule, and you can see the position categories on the left. You can see the pay step minimum, then the pay step maximum, the minimum rate, the maximum rate attached to those steps. And then you can, over on the right, you can see how each step increases by 2.5%, okay? Now, this, I will tell you, this classified salary schedule system it's very good from the standpoint, a lot of schools contact us and ask us if they can borrow what we have. Because it does a few things really well. Number one, it has an establishment of a starting salary. Number two, people can, as they gain experience, they can move across, they get an increase in pay as the longer they stay with us. And number three, one of the factors is that if someone is with us for 6 months and gets a positive evaluation from their supervisor, they automatically get a 2.5% bump within this system too. So there are some very good things about it. Essentially, we're looking at, for next year, when it comes to classified staff salary package, we want to continue to move to that $15 per hour rate that's coming in 2026. And of course, we have the strategic goal of meeting strategic plan number 3, which is recruiting, retaining, and hiring highly qualified staff as much as possible. Part of that is comparable pay. So we're continuing to try and meet strategic goal number 3 in our strategic plan. The nuts and bolts of this. This impacts all 181 classified staff members that we have right now. That number could change, just so you know. Gets the lowest starting pay job in the district to $14.60 for a starting salary. And you can see those on that minimum rate. You can circle what those positions are, what that would be for next year. This is an estimated $215,728 impact to the district. Okay, now that changed a little bit from information I provided you before because we updated some people that have told us they're not coming back, so it updated that a little bit. It's a 3.1 to a 3.2% increase for classified staff, approximately 44 cents per hour increase, okay? So, and part of this is all dependent on where they're at on this salary schedule. Okay? Finally, I already mentioned the 2.5% pay increase they get after 6 months on a positive evaluation. So literally a person who starts with us at $14.60, 6 months in, could get a bump to $14.97 and almost be at that $15. The goal will be that this year we make this move, we come back we'll have the same conversation again next year at this time, and we'll hopefully be able to be at that $15 per hour mark a year early. Because January will be coming right upon us, so that is the recommendation at this point for approval. It'll come to you for the May meeting. Just a couple of other updates for you. Administrative staff salaries ended up being a negative impact on the budget because of retirements and reducing one administrative position. So that had a negative impact. It didn't cost us any money. It actually reduced how much goes into total benefits and salaries. And other contracted employers are right at around this 3% mark as well. So we try to keep everybody right around that 3% area that will be employed by the district next year. And that's roughly, as of right now today, that's roughly about 354 people. Okay. Any questions?
How competitive is this? Can you get an idea of the area, school size?
You know, in the area, we are outside of Norris. We are the largest school in our ESU 5 area. So we have so many more employees than they do. That impacts what we can pay and what benefit package we can offer. But I would say in terms of the city of Beatrice, we're fairly competitive, as competitive as we can be with other hourly classified positions. Trying to get better all the time.
Good.
Okay?
Now what's next?
Next is the new elementary.
The good stuff. I got a video for you, Doris.
We have,
Sit back, let's go. You ready?
Missy has,
Tomorrow is, and this is for the teachers, so that's why it says that.
so just to give a little preface here, tomorrow morning we are meeting with the PK5 staff after retirement recognition at 9 o'clock. And there's a lot of information that we have to give to them about the new building that, quite frankly, we've been planning, and we wanted to make sure that we planned it as thoroughly as possible, had as much communication as we can possibly have with the people that have been involved with that. And also we wanted the teachers to remain focused on their duty this year. Now, we're getting close to the end of the year, as you all know, they all know. Now we're ready to give them that information that they've been waiting for. So that will happen tomorrow. And there is a ton of information we're gonna be giving them. We also will preface it with a statement that everything that we're giving them right now, in terms of move-in dates and things like that, is occupancy dependent. And what that means is fire inspector, health inspector, city inspector, state inspectors, elevator inspectors, all of those people will still have to come through in the month of basically June before we have clearance to move people into the building. We may have permission to move into the building, but that doesn't mean people can be in there until we have occupancy. So that'll kind of be our disclaimer to start.
So, super exciting. We took a lot of slides out because we didn't need to get to the nitty gritty for all of you, but if you have questions, please ask, because or we could be here for a really long time. So tomorrow what we're gonna talk to staff about is classroom furniture, moving and packing, room assignments, the master schedule, the tour when they get to go out, classroom budgets, contract days, and do question and answer, all within an hour. We're gonna be flying. So classroom furniture, what we are going to show is what's been purchased for each of the classroom. They will get this document electronically. Danielle did a great job going through, ooh, you changed it again. Nice job. Going through, telling what they have, but then everyone can, preschool is keeping the majority of their furniture and bringing it over, because remember when we got all that Head Start money? So it's still very good stuff, and it's equitable across all rooms, so they're keeping their stuff. But then the other classrooms, let's go to 5th grade. So then that kind of shows what will be in their classrooms when they move, okay? So then they have an idea of these are the things that are there, I don't have to pack this stuff. So that was our purpose of having that first, so when they're going through it, they're like, oh, I don't need to take that because that's already in my classroom. So next would be the classroom colors. So like you've been there, you know that the wayfinding through all that is there, so that is that. Packing and moving, we're gonna talk, this has been hard. I mean, super hard. How do we do it effectively, efficiently for everyone? Talk to Hausman, talk to other school districts, talk to our maintenance crew. This has went through lots and lots and lots of different things, but so we'll go through that. Danielle's handing out that handout that we will walk them through everything. I don't think you want me to go through it. If you do, I can, but we're just gonna go. But honestly, we are going to be pretty, this is what's gonna happen. This will happen, or your room will not be moved. So when the checkout comes, they're gonna have a checkout sheet. If it's not signed, if you don't get a little ollie that says, I'm ready to move, put on your classroom door, it's not moving. So your cupboards are cleaned out, everything is done, because our maintenance staff, bless their hearts, are gonna be super busy. It's not their job to clean up the stuff that you don't want in your classroom. And so we want to be very thorough across the board about all of that with that. Paddock Lane's gonna be a little bit different because they have summer school. So they're gonna have another additional meeting, but everything is gonna be the same. We work with the technology department, so it's just the same across the board. Everyone has the same expectations. If you don't get your little ollie, your stuff doesn't move, sorry. So you have to kinda, I don't like that, but you have to do it when we have something this big and we're on a timeline. To be very cognizant of inventories and what's at one school and not at the other school. We're gonna do inventory when they pack. So you get your inventory list of your classroom, you're checking things off, you're adding things, so we are good, and our new current inventory is there at the new school. So we know what's there, and that inventory is right, and it only makes sense. And those will be due at checkout when you get your little ollie thing to be moved, so those are good. Timeline, we'll share that with them. That's as of tomorrow. The district will be moving things in July, and then tentative date for teachers to be in the building is August 1. We would love for that to move up, but that's just where we're at right now. Oh, this is the one that caused me the most headache, the most concern, the most, where am I at? Who am I with? Where's my co-teacher? Whatever. I mean, like, I've had maps after maps trying to put new teachers with old teachers. When Mr. Ford was here, he's like, we just built one in Cozad and we did it alphabetically. Hey, cool, that's what we did. So we did alphabetically with, the A's at the lowest number and just did it alphabetically. Done. No one can complain. You may be by your friends, you may not, but it's just done. I just feel really good about it. It took the, that iffy factor, out of it. So I was super excited about it. I'm like, dude, done. So they will get that or get it tonight if they're watching. I know that's a lot of anguish for people. Master schedule, they will be shared their master schedule. If you wanna look at it, we can look at it. The goal was equality and putting students first. It's a 6-day rotation, we've talked about that before. Everyone will have 1 hour of plan, everyone. From special teachers, to sped teachers, to title teachers, to speech teachers, to regular, everyone should have an hour of plan. To allow equality, first and second semesters are different, because when I had it the same, art didn't have 2 days without kids. That's not fair. PE went straight through. That's not fair. So after I put it together, I'm like, oh my gosh. So it took a long time to figure it out. So in order to do that, art, so 3-5 will have art twice a semester in the first semester, and second semester they'll have it once, and then vice versa. So those will vice versa with PE, so that we can do that. So everyone does it. Brand new art teacher, you can't have her go all the way. I mean, we want to maintain. So if you want to just, wait. Let's make sure our links work.
Oh,
There she is. So it's like day 1, semester 1, and then it goes to semester 2, but looking at like specials. So now if you look at PE, they have some time throughout the day to go. Music is the same thing sometimes. Guidance will flip-flop, so they'll only teach like in the morning or in the afternoon, and the other time that guidance counselor is available for small groups, for grabbing kids just to talk, for those kind of things. Super excited about that. Art will have some more planning time because of that. Library will go straight through, but we'll have paraeducators to help do that, so it's not all lesson. One could be lesson, one could be checkout books, or to work in the makerspace and things like that. So, very excited about this. The other thing that I'm very excited about is the chunks of time that they will have that is not gonna be interrupted. This is reading time. It's uninterrupted. We're gonna have strong tier 1, that we're not pulling kids. Everyone's in there for tier 1 instruction, and then we will move around. So it's going to be prescribed, and this is what's gonna happen, so all kids get that core 1 instruction, so.
just to add a little tidbit into this master schedule is really what made the Wednesday early
yeah.
dismissal time be able to be removed. Because now teachers have collaboration time built into the schedule where they can do the PLC work, especially at the elementary, the PK5. They'll have that meeting time within their day because of the specials, because of the schedule. So that really, just connecting a couple dots there for you, this was really a big driver of being able to make that happen.
And those times will always be the same. So kindergarten will always have from 12:50 to 1:50 is special time. And then what we're doing is day 1, everyone will have sped, title, plan together. Day 2 will just be teachers are planning, do you. Day 3 will be like that PLC time where we're looking at data and changing things. Day 4 is plan, 5 common plans, so everyone's, so. Freedom within structure, how's that? So the other thing we'll talk about is the tour that will happen May 20th. Our hope, dream, goal is to get everyone out there on the 20th, but you all have been there, so you know how big it is. So we don't want to just run everyone through it, but we also don't want to just linger for 3 hours with one group. So that's kind of where we're planning, and just to let them know about that. That will be the first time they're really doing something with their teams. So we're gonna have some fun things out there for their teams as well to start celebrating the opening of our new school. Classroom budgets, we'll talk about, that they get some money to start those up. Contract days, those 4 days that they've been gifted at the end of the year are not days to sit back with our feet up and not do anything. Those are supposed to be busy. We have 4 days, you should be packed, you should be ready to go. If you are not packed, if you are packed, there is plenty of spaces throughout everywhere that you get to go help. Libraries, if anyone wants to help pack books, we're going to start doing that, but there are plenty of spaces. My mind, when I walk through schools now, is like, oh my gosh, what about that cupboard? Or, oh my gosh, this cupboard. So, but those are the things that we need to really start thinking about, because they either need to be cleaned out, thrown away, or packed. So, lots of, oh, we don't wanna go there yet. Lots of things to people we talked about yesterday. We wouldn't be here without our team that has done this together. It's been a tough year and a tough semester, but to be able to lean on the people that have done this and helped out has just been, I think we're at a great place, and it's good things are gonna happen at Beatrice Elementary for sure. Here's some fun pictures with carpet, and these rooms are ready to go. So carpet's laid, paint, everything's ready. Well, maybe not, there's some stuff on the floor there.
Carpet
Yeah,
remnants.
I think, yeah, carpet remnants. This is a storage room there's a storage room between each two classrooms.
Look at the monkeys in the window trying to get in.
Easy.
One of the clouds with this will be a open group, like a learning space for them. Danielle wanted to show you guys sing, so there's
I
the
just
sing.
really think, those are gonna work well, you think about little kids, and if they're too deep, they can't reach, and they're sensor based.
She's really excited.
I am really excited about those water fountains things.
Yeah.
This was the #1 topic in talking to teachers that they wanted to make sure happened, right?
The gym. Scoreboards are up, basketball hoops are up, so, and then we'll ask them questions, we'll have them ask questions. Hopefully we'll get through all that in an hour, it's a lot. What questions do you guys have?
I see there's provision for volunteers in your last item in here, so it's a matter of contacting Danielle.
Yep.
What kind of things would volunteers be doing? Are we using?
Packing, unpacking, driving, because of the multiple move spots, because we were gonna put that in there, did we not put it in there? The building map of the different zones in which we're gonna move, because one zone would be the furniture moves in, one zone is, they're not even listening to me anymore, they're out, so, but then the school we're moving, so, we don't have like one day that we're moving, but we will find those, and we will absolutely call for volunteers, moving boxes, unpacking boxes, packing library books.
Do you want help at the beginning, like those 4 days when the teachers are packing? Is that when you need help too?
Y-
In other
Yeah.
areas of the current building?
I think so, yes, but also we need help, like, after tomorrow, I'm hoping that we need help in libraries and sorting books.
Well, and I can do libraries and books, I like doing stuff.
Yeah, and so I think anytime that you have some extra time, those 4 days, there will be plenty to go through. I know the secretaries are like, looking at those offices, but think about those offices, they've been here forever, so there is historical stuff in there. So the question is, what do we do with those? You know, and so what I'm doing with them is we're putting them in totes and we're gonna bring them down here until we find a good solution, because there's a vault here, so. Sorry guys, but I don't want them moved and destroyed. I mean, you don't wanna put them in the library at the new school, cause they're gonna get, you don't want kids rifling through them, they're awesome documents, so. The downtown library, I mean, our public library, we just need to decide. So, yes, there's lots and lots, kitchens, cupboards. I found a whole music series from 1952, so if anyone would like the 1952 music series.
Museum books.
Yeah, some of that's, but we have to make decisions on that, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. What other questions? We just wanted you guys to listen, to know what's going on.
Thank you. Staff will see all of this tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and hopefully it will take care of a lot of the questions they've had getting up till now, but that's the plan.
I like it.
I don't see any public people here.
I've already packed up the morning.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second? All those in favor